Hey guys, my name is Nogan and welcome to my Python series. Hope you guys doing good. So in today's video, we're going to be focusing on looking at casting in Python. So we'll look at casting. We'll also try to define casting, or let me say like a statement, like try to understand like what is casting, because casting in this word means something very interesting. We're just casting something. But we just look at like by definition what it means in Python and how it can be used in writing proper programs and utilizing its strengths and also like ways to go in terms of like a concept in Python. But if you guys haven't watched the previous video, we focus on like numbers in Python. We spoke about numbers, we spoke about the numeric of type of numbers. So I'll link a card on top there. Just check the video out because there I focus mostly on focusing on trying to like a structure programming of different types of numbers: integer, floating point, complex numbers, and how it can be used, of course, in your program. Now, let's jump to the IDE PyCharm here. Okay, so now here we have like an empty project here of the main.py. So eventually now here we just write our program by declaring a few variables, of course, and look how we can cast those variables or convert them from one to another. Now, let's start by definition. So what is casting? Now, casting in Python refers to the process of converting a variable from one data type to another. It's interesting. We just see in a moment like what or like how it's being used in programming. But now again, Python provides built-in functions for casting, such as like int, integer, float, string, and also list, and also tuple. So those are like built-in functions you'll see here to convert variables from one data type to another. Now, let me first include a comment. Let's just say now from one, let's say data type to another. Awesome. Now, so what we're doing out here on to another comment, which will first be casting out integers. Integer to a float. Awesome. So I'll declare a variable called int underscore num. I'll initialize to 10. I'll declare another variable float, as you can see here, num again. But now here I'll be doing a cast eventually. So I'll just say float parentheses, then I'll say int underscore num. Okay, then I'm gonna now say print, use the print function, parentheses, double quotation marks, and now in here I'll just say int integer to float. There's no way casting it, so we converting it. I'll just call the variable float num here. Awesome. Okay, so guys, let's first discuss here. Let's just talk about what we have here, which means in line 4 we have now a variable called int num. We're initializing it now to 10, which means it's going to store the value of 10. Now, float number is just like an empty a variable, but not doing right now here. We're initializing it also, but using something called like a function of a float, just like the float here is a function. It takes now the variable, this one of int num here, but now what we're doing, we're casting it, which means we're trying to convert this integer into a float using the float variable here. Now storing this float variable, float function eventually, we're taking this int variable in this float number. So this is like what we're doing, we're trying to cast eventually now this integer from an integer to a float using this float function here. We get it. Now after that, we're focusing on trying to use the print function to say now we are going to be saying the print function just justifies saying we are eventually casting or trying to convert an integer to a float using this operations or this function from here, line 5. Now just to justify by saying what we're seeing here, let's just come here and run a program here and see what's happening. Awesome. As you can see now, based on the output here, we have eventually integer to float being displayed here. So which means our casting or our conversion from integer to float now is being justified or is working properly. Awesome. We just try to make some space here. Okay, awesome. Now let's focus on trying to also cast another variable. Let me include another comment here. Let's from float, let's cast from float to integer and see the difference. How you use them in the program. Okay. Now I'm gonna just say again a float again, variable underscore num. I'll initialize to 3.14. Then I'm gonna also include int dash int underscore num, and also initialize to now here, because we have to do a casting. Will be now, as you can see, eventually now the idea of PyCharm gives us now a hint. So just use a tab, then you just now make sure that the line of code is being included properly. So after this, we'll include now again the print function and double quotation marks again. So now here, we what we're doing, we're just trying to cast from floating to an integer. Awesome. So based on the line of code we have here, we're just trying to say again, from a floating point number 3.14, we want to convert this into an integer. So if you look at the value here 3.14 from your point of view, initially you'll understand that now this has to be a 3, a whole number, an integer of 3, because now if it's here it was like 5 and upwards, which means you can convert that 3.54 into 4, and in for like a whole number by the conversion of an integer. So if you look at this line of code here, print of course will just justify by saying now that this is being converted from a floating point to a integer. Now let's run this and see what's going on here. Awesome. As you can see, we are having an output here by saying float to an integer, which means the value now of the line of code here is being justified here because we have now 3.14 as a floating point number, but also what is consistent is that now 3.141 is less than 3, which means it cannot be converted now or changed to a much more higher value than 3, because why? It's 3.14. If we have here, let's say fundamentally, let me just close this, and we have here, let's say for example 5, let's just test and see what's going on. If we run this and see, it's still 3, which means it just focus on the whole numbers, but now in terms of conversion, it's focus on getting like the greater value of that value, but now it's focusing on getting the first initial point, which is like the whole number of that variable. Okay, awesome. Now after this, let's also focus on trying to have another variable or a conversion of a string to an integer. Let's just say here dash string to say integer. So say str dash say num initialize to quotation marks 25. Then say int so dash from dash str the string initialize to int, casting it again here str dash num. Awesome. Let's also include a print function with this. Awesome. Just change the statement here because now it has to be from a string to integer. So the string to integer. Awesome. So okay, now we have a string variable here, which means eventually right now, because we know the value is 25, but now of course this variable is of type string. So initially, truly speaking, that now this will be eventually be converted into an integer because of now the initialization of this variable here of str num. So basically, from this point of view, also here we're just trying to convert this string into a number, which means 25 will be converted into a whole number now here. You'll see in a moment. So if we run this and just to see what's going on, it gives us output of now string to integer, as you can see here. Awesome. The use case of casting in Python, or eventually let's say converting variables among themselves is interesting because it's consistent, as you can see, because we can convert any integer or float or string from one form to another using this built-in functions of int and also float. Let me add one more example, just one more. Let's just include now here, let's say, for example, a float to a string. So we float to a string. Now just say float, and also you say str float initialize str again. Because now we also want to convert this floating to from floating into now eventually a string, so it will be from here to string. Awesome. I'll just say now print again. Awesome. So now here, let me just convert this into something. Awesome, fine. Nice. Okay. So eventually now this last example here, or last example here of float to a string, same thing also applies also here. We just converting now this floating point number here into a string, as you can see here. So if we just run this, just to be like because based on the code itself, it looks consistent and clean. So let's run this and see like what's the output. As you can see now, float to string, which means we converted now eventually our statement or our text, our value that we have of float into a string, as you can see here. Awesome. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. So if you have any questions, don't forget to comment down below. And also, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to like also. Once again guys, thank you for watching.